Welcome to 'Tis the Soundtrack, the channel dedicated to digging deep and bringing you the merriest of music all year long. I'm your host, Kevin Williams, and today we're celebrating the end of Christmas in July by taking a look at another Disney holiday loop. This is one of my favorite area loops, and a perfect soundtrack if you're looking to get a summertime Christmas fix. This is Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar Holiday Loop. If you're not familiar with Disney area loops or their holiday counterparts, you can check out the first entry in the series, where we dive into the concept and also take a look at the Christmas tunes of the Buena Vista Street area in Disney California Adventure. The link is in the show notes. But today, it's not about the big band jazz and swing tunes of Buena Vista Street. It's all about the island vibes of Trader Sam's. Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar is located just outside the Disneyland Hotel, which itself is located just outside the Disneyland gates in Anaheim, California. It shares a building and a chunk of the menu with the Tangaroa Terrace Tropical Bar and Grill, both located in the hotel's pool area. As you may have deduced from the name, Trader Sam's is a tiki-themed bar. It opened in 2011 as part of the multi-year renovation of the Disneyland Hotel that was themed around nostalgia and paying tribute to the early days of the park. The Tangaroa Terrace and conjoined Tiki Bar are the spiritual successors to the Tahitian Terrace, an Adventureland restaurant that operated from the early 1960s to the early 1990s and featured a dinner show with firewalking and hula dancing.
Hark, the jungle drums are calling. That's the Tahitian group I was telling you about. The show's starting right over there.
But that's not the only Adventureland connection. The name Enchanted Tiki Bar is itself an homage to Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room, and the bar's fictitious proprietor, Trader Sam, was initially introduced through the Jungle Cruise attraction, where Sam was the head salesman of the equally fictitious Jungle Navigation Company.
Tropical Imports announces that the special Jungle Cruise dispatch has arrived, bringing with it a generous supply of extra-fine mosquito netting, guaranteed impervious to mosquito and tsetse fly. Remember, when it comes to sleeping sickness, prevention is the only cure. That's mosquito netting at Trader Sam's.
And this takes us to the uncomfortable portion of this episode. Tiki bars, and tiki culture in general, can be a form of cultural appropriation. They often steal elements of Polynesian, Hawaiian, Caribbean, and other cultures, including the music, art, customs, and traditions, then blend it all together into a homogenized, romanticized product called tiki, which also replaces the history of violent colonialization throughout these areas with a menu of tasty rum-based drinks. And there's also the problem of Trader Sam himself. A character developed for the Jungle Cruise attraction, Sam was depicted as a racist stereotype of South American indigenous peoples, a practitioner of cannibalism and a purveyor of shrunken heads. An audio animatronic character of Sam previously appeared near the end of the ride, where he offered to trade you 2 of his heads for 1 of yours.
Well, crew, no trip to the jungle would be complete without saying hi to Trader Sam. So everybody say hi, Sam! Hi, Sam! Now, Sam is our head salesman here in the jungle, but his sales have been shrinking, so he's offering you a deal. 2 of his heads for 1 of yours. Any takers? Oh, come on, folks. Either way you slice or dice it, you always come out ahead.
You can see the issues. I say previously appeared because Disney, who had already been slowly removing racist elements from the Jungle Cruise as well as other attractions, took advantage of the extended COVID closure of the California parks to do some serious deep cleaning. All mentions of cannibalism, shrunken heads, and the Trader Sam animatronic itself were scrubbed clean away. And though Sam is no longer physically present in the park, his backstory continues to grow and develop. The current version of Trader Sam is a world traveler who has rubbed shoulders with pirate royalty from Blackbeard to Jack Sparrow, accompanied Teddy Roosevelt on his expedition to the rainforests of Brazil, and frequently assisted Dr. Indiana Jones on his archaeological adventures, including a trip to the Lost River Delta of Cusco, Peru, to excavate the Temple of the Crystal Skull. This lore also includes Sam dropping anchor in the Polynesian Isles sometime in the 1930s to open his Enchanted Tiki Bar. And I'm not sure if implying that the real Enchanted Tiki Bar is less a result of cultural appropriation and more the result of a fictitious character's 200-plus years of collected travels, trinkets, and ephemera really does much to move the needle for folks who are already put off by tiki culture. And that's okay. Personally, I gravitate toward the Polynesian pop aesthetics, the tropical music, and the tasty rum-based drinks of tiki, while attempting to be mindful and not trivialize or marginalize the real cultures, customs, and religious symbols it was based on. I'm not sure if that's the right place to be, but it's the space I'm currently occupying. The Disneyland Hotel version of Trader Sam's seems to be in the same orbit. The bar's interior was crafted by Imagineers with the same attention to detail they put into the theming of e-ticket rides. The place is packed to the ceiling with Easter eggs and references to Sam, his famous friends, and their globetrotting adventures. It also contains several animatronics of its own, not to mention lighting and sound effects that are triggered when thirsty patrons order specific tasty rum-based drinks. This immersive theming also carries over to the music. There is a standard music loop that plays inside and around Trader Sam's, and features a playlist of tracks by early Exotica artists, like Martin Denny and Arthur Lyman, all the way up through to modern tiki acts, like the Waitiki 7 and the Tiki Yaki Orchestra. As with most of the other Disney area loops, Trader Sam's switches to a unique holiday playlist for the Christmas season, a mixture of classic holiday tunes performed by Hawaiian and surf rock artists, with a smattering of non-Christmas Exotica and modern tiki tunes tossed in. The Trader Sam's Enchanted Tiki Bar holiday area loop includes Polynesian Village Love Theme by the Tiki Yaki Orchestra, Blue Christmas by Jerry Bird, Black Sand Blue Sea by the Tiki Yaki Orchestra, a track that also appears on the non-holiday loop, Jungle Bells by the Blue Hawaiians, Mele Kalikimaka by Jerry Bird, When First I Love by Martin Denny, Silent Night by Genoa Kiowi, We Wish You a Merry Christmas by The Ventures, Love Dance by Martin Denny, What Child Is This by Jerry Bird, Have Yourself a Quiet Little Christmas by the Blue Hawaiians, Winter Wonderland by Jerry Bird, Lahua Pumbaa by the Tiki Yaki Orchestra, Frosty the Snowman by The Ventures, Martinique by Martin Denny, another track that appears on the non-holiday loop, Away in a Manger by Jerry Bird, The Christmas Song by Los Straitjackets, Jingle Bell Rock by Ozzy Kotani, another version of Mele Kalikimaka, this time by Arthur Godfrey and All the Little Godfreys, Christmas Time Is Here by the Blue Hawaiians, Oasis and Dakala by Les Baxter, Christmas Island by Jerry Bird, Hawaii Nocturne by the Tiki Yaki Orchestra, White Christmas by the Blue Hawaiians, Christmas in Hawaii by Jerry Bird, In Search of Mai Ting by the Tiki Yaki Orchestra, Sleigh Ride by The Ventures, Pool of Love by Les Baxter, a second version of Silent Night by Jerry Bird, Jungle Flower by Martin Denny, a second version of Blue Christmas by the Blue Hawaiians, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer by Arthur Lyman, Exotic Night by Martin Denny, another version of Jingle Bells by Genoa Kiowi, La Haina Morning Rain by the Tiki Yaki Orchestra, Silver Bells by Jerry Bird, Enchanted Xmas by the Blue Hawaiians, Santa Claus is Comin' to Town by The Ventures, the second version of White Christmas by Jerry Bird, Tiki Diva by Kenny Sasaki and the Tiki Boys, another track that appears on the non-holiday loop, the second version of Christmas Island, this time by the Dinning Sisters and Bob Archer, We Four Kings, Little Drummer Boy by the Blue Hawaiians, and to wrap it up, Auld Lang Syne by Cyril Pahanui and Bob Brosman. Before we jump into the music, I want to point out a few unique things about the Trader Sam's holiday loop. First, it's long. For those of you counting along, it's 43 tracks by 17 different artists, and while most Disney holiday loops are in the 45-minute to an hour range, the Trader Sam's soundtrack completely eclipses the average runtime, coming in just shy of 2 hours. Second, it's one of the only Disney holiday loops to include non-Christmas songs in the playlist. Now, it's not completely alone in this category. There are a few others, like the Art of Animation Hotel Lobby Loop at the Walt Disney World Resort, which we'll be covering in a future episode, and which coincidentally also features a surf-heavy Christmas soundtrack. But, unlike Art of Animation, which shoehorns in a handful of non-Christmas pop songs and covers from various Disney and Pixar films, Trader Sam's is a more organic blend, using instrumental pieces to transition between classic holiday tracks. Lastly, it's unique in that it's one of the only Disney holiday loops, outside of the Main Street USA loops, to appear at multiple parks. The Trader Sam's holiday loop can be heard at both the Enchanted Tiki Bar at the Disneyland Hotel and Trader Sam's Grog Grotto at the Polynesian Resort in Walt Disney World. Okay, on to the music. This playlist is chock full of great holiday tunes. And I'm going to start things off with a statement that might ruffle a few feathers. This loop includes my favorite version of Mele Kalikimaka, and surprise, it's not Bing Crosby. It's the instrumental rendition by Jerry Bird, featuring his signature lap steel guitar. Sorry, Bing. And while we're talking about Jerry Bird, we can't gloss over his fascinating musical career, which included joining the Grand Ole Opry while in his 20s, being one of the first to sign the up-and-coming country music star by the name of Dolly Parton, and giving steel guitar lessons to countless musicians, including another famous Jerry, the Grateful Dead's Jerry Garcia. And while we're talking about famous Jerrys, I'd like to take a moment to mention one more famous Jerry, Jerry D., the totally awesome host of the Totally Rad Christmas podcast. Jerry recently invited me back on his show to talk about the obscure 80s holiday special, Lollipop Dragon, The Great Christmas Race. I had a great time talking with Jerry and dredging up my long-suppressed Lollipop Dragon memories, including a reoccurring dream 5-year-old me had where I was chased by Baron Badblood through the Forest of Mirrors. And if that last sentence didn't make a lick of sense to you, that's okay. Just wait for the episode to drop later this fall.
I'll get you! I'll get you!
Thanks, Jerry. Okay, now back to Bird. This Jerry moved to Hawaii in the 70s to work on reviving steel guitar music on the islands, continue teaching, and ensure the lap steel remained an important instrument in Hawaiian music. He recorded Christmas songs at various points throughout his career, but his first and only collection is Christmas in Hawaii, released in 1987, and containing 10 classic Christmas tunes, all in his signature lap steel style, and including this version of Mele Kalikimaka. Another highlight of the holiday loop for me is the inclusion of the 4 Ventures tracks. Something I've recently discovered as a man in his 40s is that I enjoy surf rock, like really, really enjoy it, and by extension, surf rock Christmas songs. The Ventures have released 2 Christmas albums. The first, titled The Ventures Christmas Album, was released in 1965 and contained surf rock renditions of a dozen classic Christmas tunes, including all 4 used in the Trader Sam's holiday loop: We Wish You a Merry Christmas, Frosty the Snowman, Sleigh Ride, and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. All 4 of these tracks are great, with my favorites being We Wish You a Merry Christmas, which incorporates a riff from the Ramsey Lewis Trio song, The In Crowd, and Sleigh Ride, which uses Walk Don't Run, the Ventures' own first hit song. The Ventures released their second Christmas album, Christmas Joy, in 2002. This album contained all new recordings, including re-recordings of many of the songs using the same arrangements from the 1965 release, along with another handful of holiday standards, including covers of Feliz Navidad and God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. This one is not as good. To me, it lacks a lot of the energy and rawness that made the first album so great. There is one interesting note regarding the Christmas Joy album. The physical release had a mashup of Brenda Lee's Rockin' Round the Christmas Tree and Gene Autry's Here Comes Santa Claus. This track appears to have been removed from all digital releases. It's not on Tidal, not on Spotify, not on Amazon Music. The closest I was able to find is a cover of the medley by the artist Sildave, which I believe is a reference to Sildavia, the fictional Balkan kingdom from the Tintin books. I've dropped a link to his cover in the show notes. Moving on from the Ventures, I want to talk about a couple of the Blue Hawaiian tunes. The band, a Los Angeles group who performs a mix of mid-century exotica, surf rock, and everything in between, contributed 7 tracks to the Trader Sam's holiday loop. Of those, my top 2 are their renditions of Christmas Time Is Here and We Four Kings, in parentheses, Little Drummer Boy. I'm a sucker for a good cover of any Vince Guaraldi Peanuts music, and the Blue Hawaiians version is solid. Maybe just a notch or 2 below the Foo Fighters medley from the 2017 Saturday Night Live Christmas episode, where Everlong morphed into Christmas Baby Please Come Home before finishing with Linus and Lucy. And apparently on this journey, I'm also learning that I'm a fan of medleys. The Blue Hawaiians' We Four Kings is a fast surf rock mashup, which sandwiches Little Drummer Boy right in the middle of We Three Kings. And finally, I wanted to talk about Genoa Kiawe's version of Jingle Bells. Genoa, a Hawaiian-born artist, began performing professionally just before World War II, which led to a radio show in Hawaii and her later recording starting in 1946. She also spent her lifetime working to preserve the Alelo Hawaii language, and is thought to have the widest repertoire of traditional Hawaiian songs, chants, and poems. In 2000, Genoa received the National Heritage Fellowship, the highest honor the United States government bestows in folk and traditional arts. Her version of Jingle Bells, sung in Hawaiian, is amazing, and also one of the only few tracks on this holiday loop containing vocals. And just as I was wrapping up, we've got some late-breaking news. I had recorded most of this episode a week or so ago, but After listening to the latest episode of Tim Babb's Can't Wait for Christmas podcast, which is the July 2024 episode for anyone listening in the far future, I needed to jump back on with one more addendum. On his episode, Tim read a letter from a listener responding to a previous request Tim made, looking for more holiday recommendations. The listener, Danny, made a recommendation for Jim Kimo West, a terrific suggestion. Jim makes 3 appearances on the normal Trader Sam's loop, a good showcase of his more traditional work, but his Christmas contributions are sadly missing from the holiday version. Jim has 2 Christmas albums to his name, Kai Hoalua, Christmas Time, and Hawaiian Slack Key Christmas. Each album contains 12 Christmas standards, and any one of the songs from either album would be right at home in the middle of the Trader Sam's soundtrack. And with that out of the way, we'll wrap up this episode. I hope you're enjoying our series, exploring the Disney holiday loops, and as always, thank you for listening to 'Tis the Soundtrack. This is Kevin Williams, saying cheers and Mele Kalikimaka.